before 1939, we had these really organized, big organizations which were distinctly syndicalist anarchists.
Could we ask you a couple of questions? I mean,
Yeah.
I think probably a lot of us have got a first kind of introduction to anarchism through the book written by the A-level examiner, which I think is probably misleadingly oversimplistic.
Yeah.
Now, like when you were making some big distinction between individualist anarchism and collectivist anarchism. Now, it's easy, I think, for most of us to understand the difference between kind of anarcho-capitalist and anarcho-communist, sort of taking those things to extremes. Now, when you've got people in the middle who are neither kind of strictly capitalist like Tucker, as an early American,
that's right,
and Proudhon, who is not a communist,
no, he doesn't like communism.
Now, both of those people seem to me to advocate systems that are based on some form of trade, but not capitalistic trade. In other words, people getting paid in proportion to their work. Now, what I don't really understand is why Tucker is then classed as an individualist and Proudhon as a collectivist when their economic systems that they have.
Yes, I mean,
I
think you're right. I mean, I think the economic system. In fact, Tucker is a great advocate of Proudhon's economic system.
Right. So I mean, why call one an individualist?
Well, I mean, I think it's just the way. It's just well. I guess in a way, I guess the difference is this, that socially, Proudhon is much closer to like an organized artisanal working class. And he is the person that you can trace back French anarcho-syndicalism from the 1860s onwards. So that spirit of the individual within a kind of trade union environment is very different to where Tucker is coming from.
So is it more like
Tucker is more like the pioneer American with a white picket fence around with a shotgun.
So they're part of very different traditions, but in a way their ideas have quite a lot in common.
Yes, I think so, but the cultural context, that's right, the cultural, if you study ideology, you'll see that lots of study of ideology is sometimes is contextual, then if you take these ideologies and you take them out of their cultural context, then you can make it seem as if they're very similar, but if you put them in the cultural context, they're rather different. But Tucker had a lot of time for Proudhon. I mean, he did translate quite a bit of Proudhon into English or publish in America. So, and also this whole thing about fooling around with money. They both share that. This idea that Proudhon creates this people's bank. Again, we can go back to Cameron's big society bank. We have a Proudhonian argument about that. And what is this big society bank going to be? It could be a Proudhonian bank, which is the idea that what you want is to give people loans, these small people, these artisans and these peasants, so they are not dependent on high interest rate, usury and all the rest of it. And that's what he was arguing about. And you get that in America too, amongst the populist movements, which are rather close in some ways to some of these ideas. And even in the anarcho-capitalists, who say that the Federal Reserve is just a conspiracy of Wall Street,
So I don't want to dominate the questions, and I might be able to kind of sideline you at the end just to clarify a couple of things. Do other people want to ask kind of questions as well, just to clarify anything that because I've got a couple more, but I don't want to sort of dominate proceedings.
Would you have much time for like the current Italian anarchist schools, because they seem to go almost like quite far down like the doctrines like illegalism and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean that's an old tradition within I didn't talk about that, terrorism and legal, which was very important in the 1890s, early 1900s. Two things happened there. I mean they're drawing on that, they're just modernizing it, which is in those years there's a series of assassinations of heads of state, from the President of France, the President of Spain, the President of the United States, the Empress of Austria-Hungary, the King of Spain, the King of Italy. Maybe I'm missing somebody, but that all happens within 10 years, right? And they're all Italians who do it, except for the Polish American kills President of the United States. So that's a whole other story about stereotyping Italians as bomb-throwing anarchists, which again has connections today with the idea that anyone who is from the Middle East is a bomb-throwing terrorist. There are actually people who study this. The stereotype. I know somebody did a wonderful study of an interesting study of the anarchist scare of the 1890s of Italian anarchists in Soho, and comparing them with Algerian Islamists in Finsbury Park, 100 years apart and about 3 miles apart, and how the police react to this and how the press react to it. Rather interesting.
So on television.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a common thing. I mean, everyone you can see the parallels. But the thing about this, that's one kind of thing. Assassination of heads of state, sometimes it's because they should be assassinated because they're head of the state, or sometimes, people have a grudge. This is a time of violent encounter. The King of Italy is assassinated by an Italian who goes from New Jersey and assassinates him in Milan because the government of Italy suppressed a massive demonstration, a hunger demonstration in Milan with cannon, killing about 100 people a year or two before, and the king gave a medal to the general who did this. So, they decided to carry out a revenge against the king. So you have this kind of, violence going on. Now, illegalism is slightly different. I mean, this is assassination, this is regicide. This is a classical argument about, killing the illegitimate leader. I mean, whether you like it or not, but that's the nationalists do this too, and other people do this. Julius Caesar. I mean, this, it goes back to classical times. Illegalism is something else, and they draw on Nietzsche and Stirner sometimes. The idea that not so much that you're stealing and robbing because you're funding the movement, or funding the revolution, as many revolutionaries have done throughout history, but actually that this is the way you should live your lifestyle. That being a criminal, being a gangster, is the most liberated form, and this is like a perverted form of Stirner. We are the Superman. And to be Superman, we should live illegally, not because we're part of a movement, but because that is the movement, right? And you do see this interface between criminality and anarchists at certain points in certain contexts. And these people theorize this illegalism, right? That's the original of the 18. You see it recur now, and yes, so it's just a variation on that. That helps you. That's the context, I think. Yeah.
Anybody else got any other questions? We're going to be kicked out of the studio just a minute, by the way. And so I was like I say, hoping to sideline you on the way out. If nobody else has got any questions, we might kind of end the
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't have enough of anything else because as I said, I didn't have enough time for photocopy. I couldn't get to the photocopy. But you can have one of these things, which I just got from Wiki quotes, which are all the different definitions of anarchism. You can photocopy the other ones. I haven't even used it. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was fun. And good luck with your, I guess your application to university.
Oh,
what is you doing?
Exactly.
You got your results?
Well, I'm hearing that whether we have a conditional, unconditional, unsuccessful.
Oh, you've got that already? Yeah. That's quick. Yeah, it's middle of February. You would have.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So just quickly ask you a couple of questions. Particularly around this camera, we never